All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a pretty fiery take from an Android user. Their whole argument? That Apple isn't the innovator we think it is, but actually a follower, constantly playing catch-up. And yeah, the person who wrote this does not pull any punches. They kick things off with this zinger right here. It really sets the stage for their whole argument. That Apple's big, flashy keynotes are less about true breakthroughs and more about just repackaging features that have been on other phones for years. So this is the core of their argument, right? They paint this picture of the iPhone as the student who's frantically copying their Android neighbor's homework just seconds before the bell rings. The idea is that Apple just waits, sees what's working out there, and then brings it over to their phones, calling it revolutionary. And to prove it, they give two key examples. So where do they start? Well, their first piece of evidence is something you might not think much about, the charging port. But according to the author, this little component tells a huge story about Apple's entire strategy. And this timeline really spells it out. Look at this. They point out that a phone like the Huawei P30 Pro had USB-C way back in 2019. But Apple? They only made the switch with the iPhone 15, and only after the European Union basically forced their hand with a new law. So not exactly a leap of innovation, but a move they were required to make. And, according to the source, this wasn't just about the port itself. It was about the headache for users for years. While the rest of the tech world was happily using the same universal USB-C cable for everything, iPhone users were stuck in what they call the fragile proprietary lightning world. Okay, so that's case study number one. For the second one, we're moving from the charging port to another huge battleground for phones, the camera, specifically the periscope zoom lens. And here we go again. You can see the same pattern emerge. They point out that Samsung was doing this way back in 2020. Then the Google Pixel got on board in 2022 with a great 5x zoom. Apple, well, they finally followed in 2023. But, and this is a big but, they only put it on their most expensive, top-of-the-line Pro Max model. This quote really gets to the heart of what the author is saying. They argue this isn't an accident, it's a deliberate strategy. Now, you could say Apple is just being careful, waiting to perfect the tech. But this author, they see it differently. They say Apple is just waiting for Android to do all the hard work and take all the risks, and then they swoop in and sell it as their own big idea, usually for more money. So to really drive this point home, to make it about more than just tech specs, the source tells this personal story. A story about how these tech decisions can cause some real-world frustration. It all starts at a totally normal karaoke party with friends. You know the scene. Everyone's just trying to get some song lyrics up on the big TV so they can sing along. Simple enough, right? Well, the author, being an Android user, has a standard USB-C cable ready to go. Easy. But the host has an iPhone. And of course, that proprietary Lightning port just won't work with the universal cable that basically everything else uses. And then comes the part of the night we've all probably experienced. The whole party just grinds to a halt while everyone turns their pockets inside out, digging through drawers, looking for that one single specific Apple adapter. And, of course, it's nowhere to be found. And here's the real cost, right? 20 minutes. 20 minutes of the party just gone, wasted, all because of a dongle. It might seem like a small thing, but the author uses it as a perfect example of the friction this kind of closed-off system creates in the real world. And this is where the frustration really boils over. From the author's point of view, Apple's famous walled garden ecosystem isn't a benefit at all. It's a barrier. It actively complicates things, and, in this case, it pretty much sabotaged a simple karaoke night. So, okay, after laying out all this evidence, the timelines, the personal story, what's the final verdict from this Android user's perspective? They sum it all up with this pretty powerful metaphor. The iPhone isn't a tech engine pushing us forward, it's a rear-view mirror. The argument is that buying an iPhone means you're basically choosing to wait years for features that are already totally normal and expected in the Android world. And so this source wraps up with some pretty direct advice for anyone buying a new phone. They're saying, hey, don't just focus on the brand. Look for the actual features. Look for technology that's current, not something from 5 years ago. Look for a camera that can actually zoom. And for goodness sake, look for a universal port that just works with everything. And that leaves us with this final, really provocative question. The authors framing this whole debate not just as Apple versus Android, but as a choice between two completely different philosophies of progress. Is it a fast-paced race into the future, or is it a slow, deliberate funeral march? It's definitely a compelling way to look at it.